Hi there, I'm Bree Turner.
Hi, I'm Derek Spears.
Hi, this is Matt Jensen.
And you're watching Movers and Shakers.
And you're watching Movers and Shakers.
You're watching Movers and Shakers
Unlimited.
What's up, guys? I'm here at 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm here with special guest Bree Turner. How you doing?
Hi. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, here we are, day 2 of Comic-Con. I'm sure you have an opportunity to go to other cons, especially this one in prior years.
Yeah.
How has this year been thus far in this short amount of time?
I know. Actually, I've been here 5 years in a row with GRIMM.
Sure.
And it's a very different experience to be talent on a show here because they usher you. First of all, your press day is so scheduled, and they usher you around the perimeter. Mm-hmm. But here, on my own as a moderator, with this great panel that we just finished, I just was geeking out the whole time over these talented men. So fun, just relax. Like I walked myself down the road and just walked in like everybody else,
right.
And it's such a hoopla when you're on the other side of it. So it's been very relaxed, and I actually get to now experience it for real.
Nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking on that, to add to that, as you said, you were a part of the show GRIMM, and with doing a show like that, even when a show like that ends, you continue to have fan base. People continue to recognize you. Have you had a situation like that thus far this year where someone has come up to you like, oh my gosh,
yeah. No, it's good. It's like, oh right, still, people still care. No, that's why I love coming to this con, is because everyone is all in when they're here. They're just they love what you do. They love the stories you're telling. It's such a collaboration of just like hype girls and guys just walking around, and I love it. So I love meeting people, and it's been, yes, I've met some Grimmsters walking down the hallways, so it feels good. It feels good.
All right, awesome. Well, lastly, I'm aware that there are a couple other projects that you have in the works. So are you able to comment on those, or is it too early to touch base on what those are?
It's a little early. I actually am more on the production side, just
okay.
Putting that cap on after 124 episodes.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to try this for a second. So a couple things in unscripted and scripted. So
nice.
More to come. More to come.
All right, awesome. Well, Bree, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. So tell me, thus far, how has Comic-Con been treating you?
It's huge. I think that's the way to describe it. It's treating me bigly. It is. It's a massive production. It's overwhelming, the number of people here, the amount of creativity people put in their costumes. The panel was very interesting. It was. We had a panel with a bunch of people who'd never met each other before and sat down and had some really interesting and diverse conversations. So it's been the highlight of my day so far.
Nice. Now, working on a show like Game of Thrones and doing the visual effects for that, with a show that has that type of resources, especially considering as a TV show having those types of resources, would you say that it's trickier to kind of navigate that with the amount of resources that you have that's perhaps not the norm with the TV show?
No, I mean, I've done a lot of film work in my past. I've done some television. Game of Thrones lives in this interesting world, I think, in between feature film and television.
Yeah.
They have a much longer schedule than your typical TV show, but they have a shorter schedule than, say, a typical feature film.
Right.
So it's an interesting kind of sweet spot because you don't end up with too little or too much time. I think you end up with a pretty good amount of time to do what they want to do, which is obviously very ambitious. So I like it. I think it's a good schedule.
Okay, all right, awesome. Now, in speaking on that, a lot of times when I always ask folks, how they get into their, their field of work, I feel that with a lot of other roles, whether it's as a director, as an actor, you hear so much about you have to do X, Y, and Z. As a person who's getting into visual effects, how does that trajectory work if you're trying to pursue that? Because it seems a little different.
It is different. There's a lot of different ways, and I came in a very obtuse way. I was an electrical engineering major.
Gotcha.
And I was a programmer, then I worked on software that was used in visual effects, and then I ended up in visual effects. So it was a weird and convoluted route. There are people that come from technology, there are people that come from art. I think that visual effects is a really interesting intersection of those two areas. And for people that are trying to get in, let's just say from the art side of things, the most important thing is show people what you can do. Have a demo reel that shows some creativity. Less is more. If you've got something really amazing that's only one thing, it's better than 10 things that are kind of mediocre.
Okay.
From the technology side, show an interest in fields that are related to the technology space of visual effects. I think that the art side is probably a bigger area to get into. So again, demo reels. It's all about the demo reel. It's all about showing your ability. And you can do that at school. You can do that working for a smaller facility who's looking for possibly younger people. But showing your ability is really the key to getting into what this is.
Gotcha. And lastly, jumping back into Game of Thrones, with the show, as we all know, coming to a conclusion, coming to the tail end, do you find that it's that you're in a difficult position of really upping the ante, because every season is always about upping the ante and trying to top yourself?
Funny, that is an ongoing topic, and every season grows in complexity. And it's not about dragons getting better, it's like the ambition gets bigger, the complexity of what we do gets bigger. Just going from season 5 to season 6, how we shot Daenerys on top of the dragon went from simply putting a camera and sitting her down on a green buck to season 6, where we pre-animated all the sequences, played that back with motion control rigs. So that complexity grows, and the ambition grows. So yeah, what they want to do gets bigger and bigger and bigger every season, and that is a challenge. You can find ways to make it work.
All right, awesome. Well, Derek, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it. Tell me, how has San Diego been thus far?
So far, I've seen the train station and the panel and this room, so it's been great.
Short. All right. Well, tell me, with the projects that you've done, can you talk a little bit about like the process that you have in how you approach each project?
Well, I think it all starts with the story and the script and how the director wants to tell the story. And so once I kind of dig into those ideas that they're presenting, both the screenplay and the director, then it's up for me to sort of figure out visually how I'm going to get those ideas across. And so it starts there, and then it can go in a million different directions. But then I go through a process of looking at a lot of references that might speak to the story. I do a lot of testing with film stock or a digital camera or lenses, working with the designers about a color palette and what the sets are going to look like, and it all sort of snowballs from there.
All right, great. Now, when working on a project like, jump right into Wonder Woman, when working on a project like that, a lot of times with superhero films, one of the main gripes that you hear with a lot of folks is how action is captured. Because I mean, obviously that's, the spectacle, the action is a huge component of any given superhero film. So with that, can you talk a bit about like what challenges that film presented for you? Because I mean, I've seen the film and I enjoyed it, so I didn't know what challenges you found in doing that.
Well, I think the great thing about Wonder Woman and why I enjoyed it so much is that the action was always story and character driven.
Yeah.
And that comes from Patty. She had a clear idea that every sequence should be moving the story forward, and or revealing something about Diana's character. So in that sense, it gives you a great roadmap and a great path to follow. And then it just became about how are we going to show off her abilities in the most cinematic way possible. And so we began this process of exploring slow motion, shooting things at 500 frames a second, to capture a sort of a graceful, athletic ballet, and really her physicality. And then once we decided we were going to shoot at that frame rate, then we had the enormous challenge of trying to light sets to shoot at that frame rate, which you need very high levels of light, and so you still have to make the light look natural and interesting and sculpted and molded, and and when you're working with that much foot candle power, it's tough to make it look good. So so I did a lot of tests to try to figure that out.
Awesome. Yeah. And explaining all of that just goes to show like how much of a skill set is required to become a cinematographer. So I love to know, for someone who's trying to pursue, that field of work, what advice would you give, and what path, should they take in order to pursue that?
Well, I think everybody's path is different, and there's no one way to, to do what you want to do. I mean, for me, I loved movies very young, and I watched a ton of movies. I made movies, with all my friends in the neighborhood. I made Super 8 films and, cut them in my bedroom in my spare time, and that led me to film school, and then from there it led me to working on sets and eventually becoming a cinematographer. And I've by saying it in that way, I've glossed over how difficult it was,
right,
and how many years there were where I didn't know how to pay my rent, but I just had to have faith that it was going to work out. And I asked as many questions as I could to connections that I had. I pursued people that I really liked and enjoyed, whose work I really liked. I wrote them letters. I had lunch with them. They were generous enough to give me their time, or I had internships, and asked a lot of questions, and also then just sat back in the corner and watched and just kept my mouth shut, I think the main thing is to log as much time as you can doing the thing that you love and try to get better all the time.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
There you have it, guys. 2017 San Diego Comic-Con. I'll see you soon.